after a very few wet months, mould has been causing problems right along the east coast, but it's not just unsightly, it can also be a major health hazard.
Yeah, what about this? It's prompted one Aussie woman to share her story. Amy Skilton developed Alzheimer's and forgot her own name after being exposed to black mould. When Amy moved house 5 years ago, she had no idea about the infestation under her carpet. Thankfully, she has made a full recovery and is now using her experience to help others.
And Amy Skilton and Dr. Mark Donoghue join us now. Good morning to both of you. This is frightening, Amy. Tell us that moment when you couldn't remember your name. What do you remember around that period?
Nat, that whole year was quite a blur, but, you know, it's supposed to be the easiest question on a test, right? And I was filling out a form for the RTA, and the blank box remained blank, as did my mind. I literally couldn't remember my name.
Wow.
Terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, give us an expert's breakdown on what on earth happened here. How can mould cause memory loss?
Koshi, the moulds are a bigger and bigger problem for people all the way through Australia right at the moment, the East Coast especially with all the rains. And this is turning up in my medical practice all the time. The issue is that the toxins produced by moulds that can be in your house, you don't even notice the moulds, but the toxins have an effect on the nervous system. And when it affects the brain, people like Amy run into problems.
Yeah, and Amy, you were having blood tests and they were coming back normal, is that right?
Yes, so traditional blood test screening sort of for major things all appeared completely normal, but when the biomarkers that get triggered with mould got tested, lo and behold, there was the answer.
Okay. Mark, how common is it for someone to have an extreme reaction to mould like Amy did? And does the mould give off vapours or something, does it?
Well, two answers there, Koshi. The first one is what Amy's been through, thankfully, is not common. There's that, you know, you've got to line up the genetics, you've got to have the adverse reactions, the chemistry has to be affected. But it's more common than we think as doctors, and we keep on diagnosing people with early Alzheimer's without actually going through the history and finding out if they're exposed. With the moulds, all the moulds produce spores and toxins, and for some people, the mould toxins accumulate in the body, they can't clear it out easily, and it affects the nervous system, and it does exactly what you've seen with Amy. But maybe that's only a few % of the population, but moulds are not good for anybody.
So Mark, what else can it cause?
Well, Nat, it causes, I mean, we all know of allergies to moulds. I see people, when we used to do home visits as doctors, you go to the home and you can see black mould growing all around the place, kids with asthma, respiratory disease, kids with poor learning capacity at school. It affects many, many different areas. Thankfully, the important ones in the nervous system, the things that can cause Alzheimer's and Alzheimer's-like conditions, that's not so common. But if we're not looking for it, we let that pass and say, what can you do about Alzheimer's? And that's not the right way of approaching it.
Amy, where do you look for it? You had it under your carpet, did you? Did you know it was there? Should we all go and lift things up in our houses?
Look, it's probably not a good idea to go hunting around yourself because you might disturb toxins and make yourself really unwell. But it is very common to be hidden inside roof cavities, wall cavities, under carpet. So if you can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. However, if you can smell something musty or there's other dubious odours, you've got condensation, things feel damp, maybe there's dubious stains or rippling on your floors, ceilings or walls, that would be cause to call in an expert to go and have a look.
Well,
that's a good tip.
And so many people right up and down the east coast of Australia, after all the rain we've had in the last couple of years, are just nodding their heads this morning. Well, Amy, we're glad you are feeling better. And Mark, thank you for enlightening us. Amazing story there.
A woman wakes up to find part of the ceiling in her apartment falling down, and that's just the start of her problems.
No, I've never seen anything like that.
Good evening. Thanks for being with us, everybody. I'm Steve Dunn. Deb is off tonight. That Kaiser woman is now worried for her health because of what that collapse revealed. K2's Bob High was in that apartment tonight, and Bob, She says this is a lot more than just a stinky mess, right?
That's right, Steve. It's bad enough that her doctor told her to avoid her apartment as much as possible, but right now, except for staying with her mom for a few nights, she doesn't have a lot of alternatives.
The fan in Tisha Shecker's apartment isn't on because it's too hot.
It's so gross.
The scented candles aren't lit for atmosphere either.
I mean, it was so much worse than it is now because I've kind of, been trying to ventilate it since I've been here.
These are pictures of what Tisha saw when she woke up Sunday morning. Soggy insulation on her dresser, soaked sheetrock scattered across her bedroom. Tisha heard the first of it fall on her floor.
It was only about half of it, and I got my dog up because he was already down smelling it, and I got him up, and then I watched the other half fall. And that's when I jumped out of bed and got out of here and called the landlord.
We tried to contact the apartment manager and the property management company because of what Tisha saw later, black mold. Its spores can cause severe allergic reactions.
Tisha says the apartment manager told her that this won't be fixed until Tuesday. In the meantime, her doctor tells her that she shouldn't be in this apartment at all.
He told me absolutely do not stay here. Don't sleep in the living room. Try not to even be here.
It's why Tisha spent one night in her car and usually wears a mask when she's in her apartment. But the complex won't let her use another apartment in the meantime and won't reimburse her for a hotel room.
Just today, he's finally kind of said that we could work something out for next month's rent. But, it's not even, I just would rather, not be here.
Well, the apartment's managers have been a little more understanding lately. Tisha says she's still worried repairs might just cover up the mold problem instead of getting rid of it. Our messages to the apartment managers and operators were not returned.
That's just an awful mess. And you said it was pretty smelly in there, too.
Pretty stinky, yeah.
All right, Bob, thank you very much. We wanted to know tonight, what are your tenant rights? We did some checking for you, and the Oregon State Bar says you have the right to a habitable home. That means the property must be safe and sanitary. If the landlord refuses, and if you did not cause the problem, you may correct the problem if you first give written notice to the landlord. You need to define the problem and give that landlord a reasonable amount of time to make those repairs. Before repairing yourself, you also should check with a lawyer or a legal aid office.
Well, Lindsay, the pictures are pretty disgusting, and the woman who reached out to us is concerned for her family's health. She also believes the new management company here at the Kelson Apartments isn't doing enough to rid her apartment of that wretched mold. Imagine living in an apartment with black mold-covered ceilings.
It's everywhere.
Kendall Summers says that's her reality, and until recently, this is what she, her fiance, and 3 kids lived in.
Water leaks out my vents in my bathroom. I have video of that as well.
Yeah. Why is it leaking up there?
Summers says the ceiling was so weak, it caved in while her fiance was in the shower.
Doom, 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 just falling. And I hear him, I run in there to see what's going on. And I see he's down holding his head.
A doctor wrote it's unclear if his injuries were from a concussion or mold and recommended further testing. Summers wonders if mold is why her kids have been getting rashes, headaches, and more.
My middle child, she constantly has nosebleeds. And all of them, every night I notice that's when they're coughing more.
A new management company now runs the Kelston, signs out front, advertise it. There was also a restoration crew on site today. The company made repairs in Summers' apartment, but left her with a gaping hole in her ceiling.
This right here is all mold.
She also claims they never properly eradicated the mold.
If they was able to paint over that in front of me, ain't no telling how many times they done that already.
Fox 46 reached out to the leasing office and regional manager to get answers. And they do have my cell phone number, but we have yet to hear back. Meanwhile, Summers says she's contacted code enforcement and has them coming over on Wednesday. Live in East Charlotte, I'm Morgan Francis, Fox 46.
They left my dad's house a mess, and this stuff is all contaminated. I had to clean up the debris myself.
That stuff is contaminated with mold after one man spent thousands for one company to clean it up. black mold. It is serious, so if you find it in your home, it is crucial you choose the right contractor to get it out.
And one family in Maple Heights says they tried to do just that, but say their contractor just left them with a moldy mess. They turned to 5 News side investigator Joe Paganakis. And Joe, people need to do some homework before opening their wallets.
Danita, BBB is urging homeowners to run background checks with their city building department, like right here in the city of Maple Heights, and not pay any more than 1/3 in upfront money for the job.
This is black mold. This is black mold.
Steve Laparo says Top Notch Builders LLC left his father's Maple Heights home with a serious potential health risk. A black mold removal job, Laparo says, suffered potentially hazardous delays after he paid nearly $2,000 up front.
I left it a mess. I had debris all over the ground. Black mold here in the drywall there.
Laparo says he then did some checking on the company with the Maple Heights Building Department and sadly discovered...
He doesn't have a permit. He doesn't have a permit to do contracting work in Maple Heights. And I don't even think he's qualified to do the work that he says he's going to do.
Finally, Laparo says he had to wear safety equipment to remove hundreds of pounds of mold-contaminated debris from the house.
Many of the complaints that we have had against this contractor have gone unanswered.
The Cleveland BBB says it has 10 complaints against Top Notch Builders owner Michael Reese, giving his former company All Service LLC an F rating. The BBB says when it comes to hiring a mold removal contractor, homeowners need to first do background checks on the company.
Have they had any type of training? Are they registered to do business in the city that you live in? Have you called the city to ask what type of experience they've had with that contractor?
Now, Top Notch Builders responded, telling News 5 it warned Laparo about delays in its schedule and worked without a permit at Laparo's request. Still, the BBB warns picking a mold removal contractor shouldn't be taken lightly.
You have to know what you're doing, because if you don't get it out, it can cause incredible health issues for that consumer.
It's not just about the money. Your health is more important.
I want you to take a look at this picture. It shows mold inside of an apartment here at Plumtree in Delta Township. I've been working on this story for a few days now, and the family who lives in the unit says the mold has affected their health, finances, and peace of mind.
I literally always provided my daughter with a home. So this is the first time she's experiencing this, so it's really affecting her.
Kyra Woodson and her family moved into Plumtree Apartments back in April, and today she's left wiping tears from her daughter's eyes after being forced to leave.
It feels like as if I worked hard for nothing, because now I have to start. I'm sorry, babe. I have to start all the way over with nothing.
She first suspected mold in her apartment in September after her daughter was rushed to the hospital. And you were sick. Talk to me a little bit about what was hurting on you.
My chest and my forehead.
They had to give her 3 breathing treatments and 2 additional doses of steroids.
Kyra says she went to management, but her complaints fell on deaf ears. She paid $500 to have a mold test done. The results found not just one type of mold, but 11.
Emotionally, it's stressful.
I reached out to management at Plumtree, whose attorney provided me with this generic comment.
Plumtree Apartments takes all maintenance issues seriously and responds to all repair requests in a timely manner.
The attorney also said they offer Kyra a temporary place to live, but Kyra says that isn't true. She said the only communication she got from management was for a plumber to come and check for a leak.
It has nothing to do with the mold. Why are you checking for a leak?
Kyra has gotten an attorney and is hoping to be reimbursed for the $500 she spent on the mold test and for personal belongings inside of her apartment. As of right now, she and her family are staying with relatives and focusing on healing emotional wounds.
I just want to stay home, but all of my toys is stolen away, me and my brothers.
Now, I did reach out to Delta Township to see what could be the next step in this dispute, but they did not get back to me. For now, I'm your Southside Lansing neighborhood reporter Larry Wallace, Fox 47 News.
Residents with mounting frustration hitting a wall tonight.
For months, they say they've battled issues at a new luxury apartment complex in Westwood that's receiving millions in tax breaks. Only on 41 Action News, Sarah Plake demanded answers for them tonight. Sarah.
Yeah, and also a few concerned citizens came here to the city council meeting wanting those same answers. The mayor said that that apartment met code and they're not responsible for poor craftsmanship. At Thursday's city council meeting, Westwood's mayor, John Ye, could not promise that the mounting issues at the new Woodside Village apartment complex would be fixed, saying they fall on the contractor. Water leaks over the course of months in multiple units led to mold concerns. Some tested positive and some residents had to relocate.
This problem has been going on for 7 months, and I honestly think that the time for talking and debating is over.
Steve Carlson is not staying in his apartment due to a positive mold test, and tonight he demanded that Westwood City Council uphold city code, which states leaky windows, walls, doors, and frames could be grounds for fines.
The city should use all of its resources to ensure that its residents are not breathing in mold.
A former resident sent us these pictures where you can see the leaks and the water pooling on her patio. She said she moved out because the problem was never fixed. Woodside Village management says they found construction-related issues and remediation is underway. But residents tell 41 Action News they want the city to take more responsibility.
Somebody inspected this. I don't know if certain people were just turning a blind eye and things weren't really taken care of the way they should have been.
The city says they did many inspections and the building met code. Westwood and the developer, Tanner and White, are in a public-private partnership. The city okayed a $28 million tax increment financing deal, meaning the developer pays no property taxes.
They were pushing to have this project done. So I just want to make sure that these tenants over here have been taken care of. This is a public safety issue.
And Mary told me that they have to give the apartment time to fix those issues, and it's not like they're receiving special treatment because of that partnership. We did call the developer and their office in Topeka for comment, and they have not called us back yet. In Westwood, I'm Sarah Plake, 41 Action News.
New at 5 o'clock, what could be a big problem in a North Palm Beach apartment. Tenants say they have mold and management isn't doing anything about it. Ted White is live in the studio with more. Ted?
Some tenants say they have been dealing with a mold problem for quite some time now. They finally caught the ear of county health inspectors who paid the apartment complex a visit today. At the Sanctuary Cove apartment, Kathleen Hagashi has a mountain of paperwork, doctor notices, and photographs.
He's digging up the carpet. He found the mold. This is mold all over the back.
Hagashi, her husband, and 2 children moved out last month after they said they complained to management for more than a year about mold in their apartment. She says it was never resolved, and they have suffered breathing problems and rashes.
I'm on an inhaler, and my 5-year-old has a 50% hearing loss documented from the mold exposure.
Managers at the property couldn't talk about the mold complaints, but the vice president of operations told us by phone that they are handling the problem through proper channels. Palm Beach County Health Department workers checked 3 apartments for mold Thursday morning.
The mold is what's causing me. It's giving me permanent lung damage. I used to work in a salon. I cannot tolerate the smells anymore.
Cheryl Bazar lives with her elderly mother. She says she noticed mold in her apartment 3 months ago, and they both have trouble breathing. She showed us her coat closet by the front door.
This is a leather jacket that's been completely mold infested. By Tuesday, June 8th, my mother suffered a collapsed lung. It wasn't until then that they shoved me in their corporate apartment, which also has toxic mold in it.
My daughter, she had 5 nosebleeds. I'm not talking about a little bit of blood coming out of her nose. It was just like a cup of blood coming out of her nose.
Betsy Lander says mold is present in her apartment too. She says she wants the problem fixed.
If you let somebody step on you, you're just basically telling them they can do anything they want to you.
As for Cheryl Bazar,
I want to be made whole. I want a safe place for my mother and I to live. I want all my belongings replaced because they can't be cleaned.
the health department could not comment on what they found today. They expect to have results from today's testing by later this month. Ted White, WPBF 25.
The school year is not off to a great start at Upper Perk High in Montgomery County. Mold problems are forcing the school to close for the entire week. Eyewitness News reporter Joe Holden shows you what officials are doing to fix the problem.
The problem was twofold. Mold at first sprouted over the summer break inside Upper Perkiomen High School. The air was scrubbed, filters were changed, dehumidifiers were powered up, It was believed the problem was wiped out. But then round 2, the students were back to class, and so was that pesky mold, this time contained in part of the gym.
They said it started in the gym and they closed the doors, so no one ever really saw it, but everyone was inhaling it.
Some students became ill, we're told. Experts say those sensitive to mold can experience respiratory irritation and other symptoms. Superintendent Dr. Alexis McGloin says the weather won out over some of the district's older air handlers.
We felt the best course of action was to make sure that our HVAC was more efficient so that it could keep up with all of the moisture that's been going on. All this humidity has been crazy.
A week off from school, some parents believe is the correct call.
She came home and said that the kids were getting sick. I had no idea there was even mold in the school. And you just don't want anybody getting sick and being in there, especially if you can't see it.
The district hired contractors to get to the bottom of the mystery. Prime suspect at this point is an old part of the high school's HVAC unit.
I just hope that they keep tabs on it, because even my family has been texting me, asking me, how do you know at the end of the week everything's going to be okay? I'm just hoping that some of these companies that are going in are going to go through and do, all the testing they need to do to make sure the kids are safe.
The district expects to talk about the mold issue at length Thursday night at its school board meeting. They encourage parents to come with questions. And as for the tab, the district tells me that they expect insurance to pick up at least some of the cost. In Pennsburg, Joe Holden, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.